Growth doesn't happen where things are easy. It never has. But that's where most people want to live. Inside the easy, the known, the predictable. The moment life gets slightly uncomfortable, the average person pulls back. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't want more, but because comfort has become the quiet addiction no one talks about. It masquerades as success, looks like stability, and feels like safety. But in reality, it slowly kills your edge. And if you're not growing, chances are you've gotten too comfortable. Let me be clear. Comfort is not evil. There's nothing wrong with stability, with rest, with reward. But when comfort becomes your default, your identity, your final destination, that's when it begins to cost you. It costs you opportunity. It costs you momentum. It costs you the hunger that once pushed you to think big and act bold. Growth isn't a reward for staying safe. It's a consequence of facing resistance and choosing to push through it anyway. Think about the seasons when you grew the most, when you evolved, leveled up, changed how you saw yourself and what you believed was possible. I guarantee it wasn't during the easy times. It was when you were stretched, when life shook you awake, when you were forced to adapt, to question your assumptions, to rebuild yourself. That's where transformation lives, not in the soft corners of routine, but in the tension between who you are and who. But most people never make it through that tension. They quit in the discomfort. They hit the edge of their known self, and instead of breaking through it, they shrink back into what's familiar. They tell themselves stories to justify it. Maybe now's not the time. I'll start again when things settle down. This just isn't for me, but nothing great was ever built in comfort. You can't be committed to your future and addicted to your comfort at the same time. One will always sacrifice the other. And make no mistake, your comfort is persuasive. It will wrap itself in logic. It will offer distractions, distractions dressed as obligations. It will tell you to wait, to rest, to pause. But growth doesn't pause. Growth doesn't wait for the perfect day. Growth happens when you do the thing anyway. When you choose to stretch even when your mind begs for relief. There's something about the discomfort of growth that rewires you. It sharpens your focus. It humbles you. It burns away the unnecessary. When you step into challenge, into the unknown, you stop pretending, you stop performing, you meet the real you, the one not protected by routine, not hidden behind a polished image. And that version of you, that's where the power is. That's where the next level begins. But as long as comfort is your goal, you'll keep finding clever ways to avoid the work. You'll dress up procrastination as perfectionism. You'll convince yourself that preparing is progress. But preparation without execution is just another form of hiding. And eventually, hiding becomes habit. You get really good at staying just busy enough to avoid the pressure of actually stepping forward. So how do you change that? You choose discomfort on purpose. You move toward the thing that challenges you even when it scares you. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stop chasing feeling good and start chasing what builds you. Because you cannot have growth and ease at the same time. One is going to cost you the other. And here's the paradox. The moment you begin to embrace discomfort, it starts to feel different. It's no longer pain, it's proof. Proof that you're alive, that you're engaged, that you're becoming. You stop fearing discomfort and you start looking for it. You welcome it because now you understand that anything worth having requires the price of discomfort. You say you want to grow? Then stop settling for what feels safe. Start chasing what feels necessary. Do the thing that scares you. Speak the truth that shakes you. Take the step that stretches you. because comfort will keep you the same, but discomfort will turn you into someone new. And if you're not growing, you're not just standing still, you're falling behind. So choose the discomfort that leads to expansion. Choose the path that builds something in you, because the life you're meant for will never be found inside the walls of your comfort zone. One of the hardest things a person will ever do is tell the truth about who they really are, not the version they show to others, not the version they've convinced themselves to believe, but the raw, unfiltered truth. And if you're not growing, it's likely because you're still running from that truth. You've dressed it up. You've hidden it behind achievements or distractions or stories that make you feel better. But growth doesn't respond to illusions. It answers only to honesty. You cannot change what you refuse to see. And most people spend years, sometimes their whole lives, avoiding their own reflection. They point outward, blame circumstances, blame timing, blame other people. They'll say, if only they supported me more, or if I had more resources, I'd be further along. But the truth is rarely out there. It's in here. It's in the patterns you've built, the fears you've fed, the responsibilities you've ignored, the potential you've denied. Growth requires you to take ownership of that. There's a strange kind of comfort in denial. When you don't have to look at yourself clearly, you get to stay comfortable. You get to protect your ego. You get to avoid the discomfort of confronting your own contradictions. But the price is steep. You stay stuck. You repeat cycles. You call it bad luck or bad timing. But the truth is, nothing changes until you do. And you won't change until you face yourself. Ask yourself, what patterns in your life keep showing up? What habits keep costing you your momentum? What relationships keep reflecting back to you something you don't want to admit? If you keep hitting the same wall in different seasons, that's not fate, that's feedback. But if you ignore that feedback, if you keep telling yourself the same old story, hoping for a new result, you become the architect of your own stagnation. You don't need more advice. You don't need another strategy. What you need is the courage to say, here's where I've been holding myself back. Here's where I've let fear win. Here's where I blamed others instead of doing the work. That kind of honesty hurts at first, but it liberates you. Because once you stop hiding from yourself, you can finally do something about it. You see, people think the truth will break them, that if they admit their flaws, they'll lose something, respect, power, identity. But the opposite is true. The truth doesn't weaken you, it sets you on fire. Because now you're no longer fighting shadows, you're working with reality. You're clear, and clarity is where power begins. You must become ruthless about your own self-awareness, not to shame yourself, but to free yourself. Because the blind spots you protect will eventually become the ceilings you live under. And no matter how talented you are, how driven you are, how big your vision is, if you're unwilling to look at what's really holding you back, you'll always fall short of your potential. Sometimes the truth is you've been lazy. Sometimes it's that you've been scared. Sometimes it's that you've been living for other people's approval, afraid to stand fully in your own voice. Whatever it is, name it. Say it out loud, and not just once. Make a habit of it, because transformation doesn't happen in the moments you feel powerful. It happens in the moments you get honest. And you can't be honest selectively. You can't only tell the truth when it flatters you. You have to be willing to look at the full picture. You already know where you're out of alignment. It's not a mystery. You can feel it. It's in the areas where you feel tension, guilt, hesitation, or regret. That's your soul telling you there's more for you, but you have to stop pretending. You have to face what you've avoided. Own what you've neglected and step into the responsibility of change. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. So stop waiting for someone to come along and wake you up. Stop hoping the next book or podcast or conversation will do what only you can do. Tell yourself the truth. Look in the mirror and speak the words that will begin your transformation. This is where I am. This is who I've been. And this is who I choose to become. So many people are stuck in place not because they lack talent, not because they lack potential, but because they're waiting for a feeling. They're waiting for motivation to show up like some spark from the heavens, something to shake them out of bed, fire them up, and get them moving. And while they wait, life passes them by. Days blur into weeks, dreams shrink, and deep down they begin to believe maybe it's just not meant for them. But the truth is simple. They're waiting for the wrong thing. You don't need more motivation. You need more discipline. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes with your mood, your energy, your circumstances. One moment you feel unstoppable. The next you don't feel like doing anything at all. If you rely on that to build a life, to achieve anything meaningful, you're building on sand. Because the moment resistance shows up, and it always does, motivation disappears. That's not because you're broken. It's because motivation was never built to carry you through the hard parts. Discipline, on the other hand, is the quiet force that moves regardless of emotion. It doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't need a pep talk. It simply shows up again and again, because it's rooted in decision, not mood. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's consistent, and consistency builds greatness. You see, somewhere along the way, the world started glorifying motivation like it's the key to everything. Scroll through any feed and you'll see it: quotes, videos, speeches, all designed to make you feel something. And there's nothing wrong with a little inspiration. But here's the problem. If you build your actions on temporary feelings, you'll always crash when life stops cooperating with your vibe. Motivation might get you started, but it will never keep you going. The real game changer is understanding that growth requires effort without excitement. You have to train yourself to show up on the days you don't want to do the work when it's boring, when it's slow, when no one's watching. Because that's when the real transformation happens, not in the highlights, but in the hidden hours. Not when it feels good, but when it doesn't. The people you admire, the ones who seem to make progress no matter what, they're not riding a wave of endless inspiration. They've just made a decision, a commitment to act regardless of mood. They've built habits, routines, and systems that don't rely on emotional highs. They don't wait for the right moment. They create it. And that's what separates them. Not talent, not luck, just the willingness to do what needs to be done, whether they feel like it or not. Waiting for motivation is just another form of procrastination. It sounds noble. I'm just trying to get in the right headspace. But what you're really saying is, I'm not ready to be uncomfortable yet. And that mindset will cost you your future. Because while you're waiting for the perfect moment to feel ready, someone else with half your ability is out there doing the work, building the momentum, creating the results. Discipline doesn't require perfection. It just requires presence. Get up, show up, do the thing. Not because it's easy, but because it matters. You don't have to move mountains today. You just have to move something. Take the step, make the call, finish the rep, write the words, and then do it again tomorrow. Over time, that simple act, repeated without excuse, builds a foundation nothing can shake. And here's what's beautiful about discipline. It changes you. Every time you follow through when you don't feel like it, you build trust with yourself. You start to believe in your own power, not because someone hyped you up, but because you saw yourself follow through, and that belief is what fuels lasting confidence. Not false confidence built on hype, but earned confidence built on evidence. There's nothing wrong with feeling unmotivated. That's part of being human. But letting that feeling stop you, that's a choice. And that choice is keeping you from your growth. So stop waiting for the fire. Start becoming the fire. Let your actions be the spark. Let your discipline be the proof. Because when motivation fades, and it will, discipline is what carries you across the finish line. Take a moment and look around your life. Really look. Not just at your job or your goals, but your habits, your routines, the people you talk to most, the spaces you spend time in. What you'll see is a reflection, not of who you're becoming, but of who you've been. Your environment is a mirror. It reflects your past decisions, your old standards, and your former self. And if you're wondering why you're not growing, why change feels so hard, it may be because you're trying to build a new life in an old environment. It's impossible to become a new version of yourself while living inside the patterns of the old one. Your environment holds energy. It contains subtle reminders of what you used to tolerate, what you used to settle for, what you used to believe about yourself. Maybe it's the people who constantly pull you back into small thinking, or the cluttered space that quietly tells you you're too overwhelmed to rise. Maybe it's the digital noise you consume that numbs your mind instead of sharpening it. Whatever it is, if it was built by the version of you who didn't fully believe, fully commit, or fully show up, it will not support the version of you who does. Growth demands more than effort. It demands alignment. You can work hard, have the right mindset, and still feel like you're hitting a wall because everything around you is wired for your past, not your future. You're trying to run forward with anchors tied to your ankles. It doesn't matter how strong your vision is if the space around you doesn't support it. You can't plant new roots in poisoned soil. The truth is, we underestimate how much our surroundings shape us. You rise or fall to the level of what you're surrounded by. That includes the conversations you engage in, the standards you absorb, the energy you allow into your space. If you're constantly around people who doubt you, who normalize mediocrity, who shrink from challenge, you'll start to absorb those same limitations, even if you never speak them out loud. Growth is contagious, but so is stagnation. Changing your environment isn't just about geography. It's not always about leaving your city or quitting your job, though sometimes it is. More often, it starts with smaller, deeper shifts. Setting boundaries that protect your energy, curating the voices you listen to, creating physical spaces that inspire action and clarity instead of distraction. It's being intentional about what you consume, what you permit, and what you prioritize. Because every choice you make either pulls you toward who you want to become or reinforces who you used to be. And yes, it's uncomfortable because changing your environment often means letting go. It means leaving behind relationships that no longer fit. It means walking away from routines that gave you comfort but not growth. It means saying no to what once felt familiar and yes to what now feels foreign. But growth doesn't happen in the familiar. It happens when you start building a life around the person you're becoming, even before you fully become them. The most powerful shift you can make is to stop waiting for your environment to catch up with your vision. Instead, let your vision lead your environment. Ask yourself, if I were already living as the highest version of myself, what would my day look like? What would my space feel like? Who would I be talking to? What would I no longer tolerate? Then start making decisions from that place. Not later, not once you make it, but now. Because here's the secret. When your environment rises to match your intention, everything changes. You start thinking differently, acting differently, showing up differently, not because of motivation, but because you've created space for it. You no longer have to fight the pull of your past every day because you've stopped reinforcing it. Instead, you're pulled forward, drawn by the alignment between your inner commitment and your outer world. Growth doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in an environment that supports it, fuels it, expects it. So if you're serious about change, don't just look inward, look around. Redesign the room, reevaluate the people, rethink the inputs, build a world that holds the new you, not just the old version you've outgrown. Because the future version of you isn't waiting in your comfort zone. It's waiting in the environment you haven't built yet.